Good evening and welcome to episode 42 of the Green Arrow, an FPL podcast by Fantasy Football Hub, as we look ahead to Gameweek 15 and the blanks and double game weeks, which are very fast approaching. My name is Fergie, and a good evening to my co-host, Adam Hopcroft. Adam, what colour was your arrow in Gameweek 14?
I think I've probably got the smallest green arrow in the FPL community. So, sorry, 14 or 15. Yeah, 14.
No, it is
so I've got
14,
the smallest.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't podcasted for a few weeks.
No.
So I've got probably the smallest green arrow in the FPL community with some of the scores flying around. So I'm up about 20,000 places. So going in the right direction. And obviously with all my chips still intact at the moment, but I'm a bit gutty because I bought in Reece James for who did I take? I'm trying to think who I took out. I took out James Justin. That makes it even worse, doesn't it? So
You didn't.
yeah. Well, I thought I actually fancied Spurs to win that game. Got it completely wrong. In hindsight, and did top myself. So I bought Reece James in. I was excited about watching Chelsea on Monday night with both fullbacks. Thought if they keep a clean sheet, maybe get an attacking return each. Huge green, elevate my green arrow at the end of the week. Obviously, that didn't happen with the news that broke Saturday night, and then Chilwell decided to go off after 10 minutes. But what made matters worse when you had people getting James Justin off the bench, Charlie Taylor off the bench. Guess who I got off the bench? Guess who I got off the bench?
Oh, I don't know. I'm looking now.
Luke Ayling from -1. So my bench, that's why from now on, I'm not going to worry about if I have to go down to my bench and I don't have any playing players, because my playing players have actually made my week worse. It's absolutely, gutted that. And then, also Watkins' goal, which, it's the second time that's happened. So I think it was a frustrating week. Really, I only had Bruno and Salah that, they obviously did exceptionally well. And that was the reason I probably got a green arrow, just purely off the back of those two players. But some of the scores, there's a lot of people did exceptionally well. And I'm very envious of some of the green arrows that we've seen floating around. What about yourself? You must have done okay.
Well, no, you think your luck was bad. So this is the kind of gift and a curse of being an engaged manager in loads of WhatsApp groups and Twitter groups. Is we heard the kind of rumours of the Salah benching very early. I think it was actually on the Friday evening, wasn't it? I think, and then it got to the Saturday morning, and it looked more and more like it. So my plan was to take a hit to get Salah in. That was my plan, and to captain him. When it obviously came to pass that he was benched and I'd saved a -4, I was like this. I was like, all those poor buggers who've got Salah, they've all captained him. He's going to come on for 5 minutes for a 1-pointer. And what happened? He came on for 33 minutes and got a 16-pointer. And every time he touched the ball, it was just a dagger in the heart. So I had
He looks so sharp at the moment, doesn't he, Salah?
Oh, I gotta be fair. He's just on it. And I think at the time my strategy to have Jota there was viable. But with Jota just out of the equation, Salah is he's just there, the main man.
He looks so hungry when he come on. I obviously saw Mane disappointed, but he looked so hungry when he came on to score and assist. So yeah, I think him and Bruno, for me, I don't like saying essentials, but I think they're pretty close at the moment.
They are. So I had that. I also had Chilwell and James, the same as you. So we heard the rumours about James again. As you said on Saturday. So I think I had Creswell to come off the bench, which I thought, not the end of the world. Obviously Chelsea go and get the most underwhelming 3-0 win ever. And Creswell gets a 1 point. Soucek, my other player, had 2 points. And to top all that, I had Watkins as well, So Watkins, I think in his last 5 games, he had a stonewall penalty not allowed. He missed a penalty, and he's had 2 goals disallowed by VAR. In that time, Grealish, has done okay. I also had Danny Ings as well, who went off injured in the first half. So it was all in all. I'm just really, really thankful.
Was it Rob Jones who had the -8 the other week? Was that the name?
It might have been, yeah. But I'm
Either
close.
way, he must be wetting himself at the moment listening to your team.
That's well, my team's all right, I think. And we'll look at my team after because
maybe your luck.
I've taken a hit already, but I'm so thankful I captained Bruno because obviously he kind of saved my game week, and I had Martinez as well. And,
I thought, when United got the penalty, I thought he was going to give it to McTominay. I thought he's got to. And,
it's so scary the way he runs up to the ball as well, because he runs up so centrally, does that ridiculous hop, and you just think, how can you generate any power by taking it like that? You've got to get it right, haven't you? And if you don't, there's no power to kind of help.
Do you know what though? He's technically that good. So what he does, he looks at the keeper's legs for any clue in which way they're going to move. So if they move, he puts it the other way. And if they don't move, the ball's past them before they get a chance to react. It's a very Yeah. I think him and Salah. It's very hard watching, particularly those two players as a non-owner, and I've had experiences of both this season. So I think my decision is made that definitely for the foreseeable, they will not be leaving my team.
No, same. And I've taken a hit already to get Salah in because I'm just watching the prices every night. And the players I want are going up. Not every night, but like every other. And the players I want to get rid of are going down. I normally wait until the press conferences, but I would have lost another 0.2 last night. And obviously because the deadline is not till Boxing Day morning, I probably lost another like 0.1 and 0.2. So I made the move, but I've got in Salah now for the first time this season. It's taking me till game week 15, but we'll touch on that in a bit.
I think that's a good move for you because I think you're going to want him, particularly with that double game week coming up. So losing 4 points to bring him in, I think you just need to swallow it, and you'll definitely get the points back. And if you hadn't made that move, you'd fall even further behind, particularly with West Brom the weekend. I mean, if you saw what Traore did to them for Villa playing on that side, I dread to think what Salah's going to do.
Martin Boyle in the chat. Fergie's team very seasonal, lit up like a Christmas tree. Thank you very much, Martin. My new team looks all right. We'll touch on that later. So welcome all in the chat. As we are live, please feel free to join in at any time. Let us know your thoughts on the topics or the relevant sections, and feel free to ask any questions. Good evening to Owen Johnson, FPL Geordie, Gio Boys, Summers, Loza, Jonathan Aves, Levi Jenkins, Deutsch Covenant Break, Dan Folkard, Martin Boyle, and everyone else in the chat. Great to have you on. Thanks for joining us. For any new watchers and listeners, if you haven't subscribed yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and set the alerts so you don't miss our live streams, which are 8 p.m. every Wednesday evening right here on this channel. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content. So tonight we will be looking ahead to the blank and double game weeks, which have now been largely confirmed for the short and medium term at least. We will chat through the players we like, our plans and strategies. Adam still holds his first wild card and I don't. So we will bring differing angles there. Please also feel free at any time to suggest some options in the chat. We will then reveal our Game Week 15 teams and plans. We will look ahead at the best capture options for Game Week 15. Probably only one person this week in all fairness, but we will touch on it. We'll give the competition results from Game Week 13 and also give away another prize this week. You won't want to miss that. And finally, take a quick look at the top of our podcast mini league. So for our YouTube viewers, we now have a graphic up showing an extract from Ben Crellin's planner, which is available for your team from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, which highlights the current blank and double game weeks for game weeks 18 and 19. It is also worth noting that there are up to 3 matches which could be rearranged into this period, which are Burnley against Manchester United, Manchester City versus Aston Villa, which were the 2 games that were postponed from game week 1, and Aston Villa versus Newcastle, which was postponed due to the COVID outbreak in the Newcastle camp. So bear these in mind when making concrete plans. So Adam, looking at Ben's planner, so the teams that have got a blank in game week 18. So these are teams that don't play: Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Leicester, Southampton, West Ham, Leeds, Burnley, and West Brom and Fulham. So a lot of teams there with highly owned players. What are your immediate thoughts, on how to navigate game week 18?
I haven't overthought this. I was saying to you prior to the pod, I think Christmas and work, and sometimes when I don't have a game week I'm happy with, I take a back seat and don't check things like Twitter as much as I would normally do, or the news. So I've been quite relaxed about this, and I don't think my thoughts have changed a lot. I'm in a good position in terms of having a wild card available. So my plan is very, very clear. It's one that's recommended by Ben, which gives me a little bit more confidence it's the right one. But I think for me, I will wildcard in next game week. And I will, and then following that, I will free hit in game week 18, because a lot of the players that looking at it, the likes of Man City, the likes of Spurs, actually might have some Spurs in my team, but I think there's loads of players that I won't have in my wild card team that I want back for 18. And then game week 19, bench boost. And I think it's a great week to bench boost if you can. And that's whether you've got the wild card or not. Because I think looking at it, firstly, just to be clear on it, you don't need 15 double game week players. I'd advise, if you're going to bench boost, have 2 playing goalkeepers, even if it's, they're playing 3 matches between them. I think that's fine. But I think looking at the fixtures, you've got a lot of sub £5 million players with good fixtures, which makes a bench boost a good option. So we look at Southampton. They've got, let's have a quick look. So they've got Leicester and Leeds away. You look at Leeds, they've got 2 great fixtures in Brighton and Southampton, West Ham, Burnley and West Brom. So I think, just one second. I think, so I've just had a cat come on the table there, which is distracting my thought. I don't even know where. So I think with which team was I talking about? West Ham.
We were talking about the NBA. How you think that the
that's so I think with looking at the number of sub £5 million players, I think there's loads of great options to bench boost without ruining your team. And I think you can have 4 subs sub 5 million, which means you can still have a great starting 11 and not ruin your team structure. So I think overall, that is the strategy that I'm going to follow. I think later on, and I don't know if we're going to talk about that in terms of game weeks 25 and 26.
Yeah.
But I think my strategy down the line for that will be I will wild card in 25 and then triple captain 26, and then try and navigate the other blanks. Is it game week 29 a bit later on?
Okay, so I'll touch on that now actually, but just to say that's interesting, in terms of your plan for 18 and 19. I have got a lot of questions for you, but while we're on, we're just going to touch on the blanks and double game weeks that are going to happen later down the line, just so everyone can get a bit of understanding and context for the whole season, right? So everyone's focused on 18 and 19. There will be more. All I'm going to do here is just read through a series of Ben Crellin's tweets and latest thoughts. If you don't follow Ben Crellin, who was on our pod a couple of weeks ago, you really, really should. So he says, this isn't going to be a normal end to the season. We're not guaranteed a big double game week in game week 37. So for those who've played for a few years now, we normally have normally a big double game week in either 34 or 35 and 37. That isn't likely to happen this year. After game week 19, postponements will be caused by the EFL Cup final, which will be in game week 26, the FA Cup quarter-finals in game week 29, the FA Cup semi-finals game week 32, the FA Cup final game week 37. Most postponements will move to the free midweeks in game week 26, 32 and 37. 1 or 2 postponements will probably have to move to a Champions League midweek. This means that game week 29 is the only guaranteed blank game week after game week 18, as game week 29 clashes with the FA Cup quarter-finals. The FA Cup quarter-finals have caused either 5 or 6 blank fixtures in each of the last 5 seasons, which means that, a maximum of likely of half of the fixtures in game week 29 are going to go. So there is that to consider. The postponements caused by the EFL Cup final, FA Cup semis and FA Cup final probably won't become blank fixtures, and they can move to the free midweeks immediately after each of those cup rounds. But that doesn't leave an obvious game week to move the game week 29 blanks to. The game week 29 blanks will be decided in the midweek before the game week 24 deadline. The sensible place to move the game week 29 blanks would be to the midweek after game week 26, but that would only be possible if neither side is involved in the game week 26 postponement that has already been moved to that midweek. Hope everyone is with us so far. Just an example of this. So Man United reached the EFL Cup final. So Chelsea versus Man United is rescheduled from the weekend of 26 to the midweek in 26. Game week 26 is likely to be the only sizable double game week in the second half of the season. So that's the second point. So two really important points there. First one is game week 29 is the only guaranteed blank on the second half of the season, and game week 26 is likely to be the only sizable double game week second half of the season. The number of extra fixtures in double game week 26 will mostly be determined by how many blanks are caused by the FA Cup quarterfinals in game week 29 and how many of those blanks will be able to move to the free midweek in game week 26. And finally, if everyone is still with me, a blank from game week 1 or game week 11, the ones I mentioned earlier, might possibly be moved to double game week 26, but most, if not all, of the rescheduled fixtures in 26 will be announced after the FA Cup 5th round in game week 24, so you'll have more time to prepare.
So basically, what Fergie's just said is there is a single game week in game week 18, a double in 19, a double in 26, and a single in 29. That's roughly what we know, isn't it? Have I missed anything on that?
No, it is. The only addition there, I would say, is we're going to know what the doubles and blanks are going to look like round about game week 24, for 26 and 29. So very long-winded there. But
I do love Ben Crellin's tweets, but sometimes I almost just skip to the answer. And, you know,
like you just did.
Exactly. Because it's just like reading them and I'm like, wow, do you know what? I've followed Ben for a long time. I know what he says is right, so I'll just look for the answer. That's what I'll typically do. Right, this is what he. So
Hornet says, "Could you recap?" I think hopefully Adam has just done that. But basically, I think 18 and 19 are only half the story. There will be a lot in the second half, which is interesting because it's definitely changed my thoughts on chip strategy anyway. So. Adam, just before we kind of jump a bit more, actually, so I've just got a slide up from the Fantasy Football Hub ticker for the fixtures, actually, from game week 15 to 17, purely because, actually, over Christmas now, we have got these games, and I'm nervous because I've done this in the past. I don't know about you, but I have definitely put too much emphasis on focus a lot of the time on the blanks and doubles. Which has kind of harmed me in the short term. I know it's a bit different for you, obviously, because you will be wildcarding in 16. You're in a lovely spot. But just in terms of the teams, actually, who've got a couple of nice games. So Burnley have got Leeds, Sheffield United, and Fulham. Spurs have got Wolves, Fulham, and Leeds. Liverpool have got West Brom, Newcastle, Southampton. Leeds have got some decent fixtures as well. Chelsea players, so fortunately for us, with our double defence, their next three away to Arsenal. Okay, I'm not sure about that one, whether that's bad or not. They've got Villa, who've been scoring well, and home to City and Newcastle sit at the bottom there. But in terms of looking, at the fixtures, and kind of how to play it from game week, 15, 16, and 17, what are your thoughts? Because I think it's the premiums I'm most concerned about. So just for example, I might have to lose Kevin De Bruyne in game week 16 or 17 to get in Harry Kane, just as an example. What are you doing around kind of managing the premiums at this point?
Obviously, I'm wildcarding, which makes it a lot easier. But the big hole in my wildcard will be Man City players. So there won't be a Kevin De Bruyne. And I considered going this week because we'll see my team later, but my defence is an absolute mess at the moment. But I'm not going to, because it would mean losing De Bruyne. And I think the fact he was rested last night and playing Newcastle I think there's a clear potential for a big return. I think he's been unlucky actually in the last 3 or 4 games. I think non-owners have got away with it really. So I think you're absolutely right. There's going to have to be sacrifices. I think a lot will look at bringing in Spurs for 16 and 17 with Fulham and Leeds.
Definitely.
And I think Harry Kane has got a good record over Christmas. And I think the thing that you'll probably know with Mourinho is that I don't see Son or Kane missing a match. I think they'll both play the majority of the minutes. Probably Kane will play all the minutes. So I think Spurs are good to target. I think if you haven't got a wild card, I think there are teams that have got good fixtures in 16 and 17 that play in the double game week as well. So I think Leeds fixtures look really good. And I think from a defensive point of view, possibly Dallas, but I would stay away, from their defence. But from an attack point of view, I think they've got some really good budget options. A lot have looked at Bamford, but I think you could, if you looked across their midfield, you've got Harrison, Rafinha, Cleek. I think there's 3 really good options there. And you've got Rodrigo as well. And I think the way that they, as a cheap forward, so the way that they play, they create a lot of chances. And I think having maybe a double Leeds attack could be a really, really good way to go. So I think Leeds are good to look at. You mentioned Burnley having good fixtures up to the double. I think from a defensive point of view, definitely. But then also Chris Wood could be one to look at. And we'll talk through my wildcard plans, I'm sure, at some point in the pod. But I think it could be Chris Wood time for, he's got 2 great fixtures, Sheffield United and Fulham at home. And then he's got West Ham and Liverpool in the double. So, the Liverpool one's not great, but they're not that solid defensively, I don't think, at the moment. So, who else have we got looking at the fixtures?
West Ham have obviously got two really nice ones in 19, and they are home to Brighton in 15. What are your thoughts on West Ham players?
Yeah, I like West Ham. I think Kufal's looked really good. I think Cresswell's looked good. I prefer West Ham probably more from a defensive than an attacking point of view, because I think when I've watched West Ham, I think that they've got some brilliant options in defence, and I think so. I would probably go there. I think Bowen's a little bit hit and miss for me, and I think at 6.5 million midfielders, I'd probably prefer to go for a Leeds player and save the money. Personally, I think Souček's a good option, particularly if you're going to bench boost. I think he's always got the capability of getting something. But I think up front with Antonio and Haller, I think Antonio's just too injury prone at the moment, and I wouldn't trust him in a double game week. So I would probably say maybe Souček and defensive options are your best bet with West Ham, because they could. They've got Burnley and West Brom at home.
Nice.
They, also as well, if you look at the 2 teams, they're both with Big Sam going in. They will probably put up some resistance, and I don't see West Ham turning either team over. Winning 4 or 5. That's unlikely to happen. But could they keep clean sheets and get bonus? I think that there's a high probability of that. So I'm at the moment I'm considering double West Ham defence from a wild card. So I think they've got some good. Well, I just think they've got. I think partly because of circumstance and budget, but they've got some good. They've got some good options. Like you like Cresswell, don't you? But I think even Bonner, if you haven't got quite enough to stretch to Cresswell, they're so good on set pieces. I think they've got a little bit for everybody. Fabianski as well, if you want. A goalkeeper long term, got good pedigree. So I like West Ham defensively. So I think that's a good shout. I think Southampton have got a mixed bag of fixtures, haven't they? So they've got Fulham away, which is good. West Ham at home, which you can argue is quite good. They've got Liverpool at home, and then they've got Southampton and Chelsea at home in the double. Yeah. So I think they've got some good fixtures. But I think the way that they're playing at the moment, I think you can look at them. The only reason to be a little bit wary is the Vestergaard's got a potential injury, as has Danny Ings. So could that strain the squad? Because I don't think they've got the most strength and depth in terms of squad. Very, very good first 11. and they've got a clear and defined way that they're playing. But I'd be a little bit worried. Walcott could be a good option as well. I think he's started to play really well at Southampton. I think Hassan Hüttl's starting to get a bit of a tune out of him. And the other one, which we haven't mentioned yet, but I think we should, is Leicester, because their performance the weekend was brilliant. And obviously I sold James Justin, completely regret that. And I regret selling Justin, because I think if I'd have kept him, I think I would keep him on the wild card as well, because listening to some of the comments that Rodgers is saying about him, he pretty much played even in the Europa League, he's played pretty much every single match. There are certain players where you feel the manager trusts them, and I think Rodgers really trusts Justin, because he'll play on the left, on the right, he can play as a third centre-back. And I think this Pereira injury, he's taken a long time to come back, and he won't be thrown back in. And I don't think he'll be back in time for the double game week anyway. Or even if he is, I think Justin will keep him out and he'll gradually be eased back in. So I think Justin's a good option, and obviously Vardy as well. I think he could be an alternative to Kane, because a lot of people will look at Harry Kane and look at the Fulham and Leeds games, which you should rightly do that. But you've got Vardy's got Crystal Palace away and Newcastle away, and bear in mind, that's 16 and 17 after United. But bear in mind their away form, and I think that he's got Southampton and Chelsea at home in the double. That, Vardy for those fixtures, assuming he's not rested like he was last year over Christmas, could be absolutely brilliant. So I think they're the ones that I would look at. Are there any that I've missed that you think?
No, I think so. I think I just add that I've got Creswell. I had him from game week 8 onwards. I think if I could have had Kufal, I probably would have. Now he's 0.5, less, whatever it is. I don't think that Creswell warrants that 0.5. I think I could spend that, differently elsewhere. I completely agree with you on Leeds attack, and Rafinha's underlying stats have just been absolutely phenomenal. I was having a look earlier in terms of shots in the box. He's had 11 shots in the box in the last 4 games, which is the same as Bamford, and just a bit less than a few of the other players, even more than Martial, who how he didn't score a couple of goals on the weekend, I'll never know. But I think Rafinha in particular, he's been mentioned in the chat a fair bit there as well. He's a really, really good option.
I just quite like, because I think now a lot of people have got Bamford in. Because there was a stage maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, a lot of people hadn't invested in Leeds attack. Yeah. But they're a fun team to own attackers for, because you saw at the weekend, even when they're out of the game, they're still coming forwards and creating chances. So yeah, I think Leeds for me, I think Rafinha's a really, really good option.
I'm probably not as sweet on West Ham double, defense as you. I'd probably have one. Bowen, I like. He's been every time I watch him live, I think, what a player. He is so quick, he's so involved. He can't seem to consistently get that final bit of goal involvement, that actual assist or actual sort of goal. But I think the 2 fixtures, he's fit as a fiddle as well. So the 2 fixtures in 19, Burnley and West Brom, are really nice. And the thing as well, and I'll touch on this more in a minute, but I do think actually it's obviously really important to have a look at what's going on after 19 as well, because there's a few teams who have got really nice fixtures after 19 and a few teams who haven't, but we'll touch on them now. Fulham is quite hard to get excited about. Fulham, I think they're home to Chelsea, home to United in the double. Not a lot there to have a look at. United are an interesting one. Obviously Bruno is just a bit of an animal, right? And Rashford has looked good. Martial's looked good. I expect we'll see now over the next 2 or 3 how United look, whether they can actually go on a bit of a roll or not. But United's fixtures actually after game week 19 are really, really nice as well. So for most people actually, those who are not going to wildcard in game week 20. United, for example, go straight into Sheffield United at home in game week 20, and they go on a run of really nice fixtures after that as well. Southampton are a funny team. Yeah, I think, watching them against Man City last week, they were superb, and they didn't deserve to not score. I don't even think they deserved to lose. I thought it was a wonderful game of football. How it was only 1-0, I don't know. With Ings out,
I think the Ings injury changed it for me, because I thought Southampton played really well, but I thought that they always had that bit of an edge up front, and I think they might have even got something if Ings hadn't got injured. But second half, City just soaked up the pressure really well, and I don't think Southampton really had anything too clear cut. Maybe the Adams header, but there wasn't loads. But I agree with you. I think first half in particular, it was a brilliant, it was a great game, and it shows how far Southampton have come, because they dominate. I mean, from a possession point of view, they were in a really strong position second half. They had a lot of the ball. City resorted to just countering them, didn't they? So it was a really good game. And it did, like I say, it definitely shows how far Southampton have gone.
I think a couple of points on them. So they are away to Fulham this weekend on Boxing Day, which everyone's kind of looking at, as a bit of a banker. However, they will be without Ings. They will be without Romeo, who's got a 1-game ban.
Yeah,
and Vestergaard may have a knock as well. So I'd just be a bit, kind of nervous there. One real positive, I think, is when when Ings is out, Walcott tended to play up front. And I think, if Ings is out for a few weeks, a couple of weeks now is 3 or 4 sort of game weeks, right? So if Ings is out for a couple of weeks, Walcott, I think he's about 5.8. He could be quite a shrewd investor. I think we're quite spoiled at the moment for those, sub 6 million midfielders, players like Rafinha, and
Bowen,
players like that. Bowen.
Agreed.
So that's just another point on Southampton there. Arsenal's another one, right? So Arsenal don't have a double in 19, but they have got quite a nice run of games, and they do play in 18. They're home to Palace in 18, and home to Newcastle in 19. Have you got any hope for Arsenal at all? Have you seen anything to get you excited?
No, not at all. I think the only time I might consider Arsenal is in my free hit. Because who have they got? They've got quite a good fixture, haven't they, in that game week? Is it Palace?
Home to Palace, yeah, that's right.
So we could be tempted with the Aubameyang for that, but that'll be funds dependent. And obviously if they've picked up, I wouldn't consider them. In fact, I potentially consider Zaha over any Arsenal player, but I think that's the only time I'm considering, because they're in a mess at the moment, and I'll stay away. So I think Arsenal's definitely a steer clear from.
Okay. So you touched on your strategy, so let's move on to our personal chip strategies now, and anything else, because I've looked at my strategy, and there's like an infinite amount of options you could do, which I'll run through a few of the ones I was thinking, and I'll touch on the ones I'm kind of settled on at the moment, though I'm still open. But Adam, so you touched on your strategy. Are you going to wildcard in 16 without De Bruyne?
Yeah. It's very unlikely that De Bruyne will be in my squad, because I'll talk through some of the players I'm considering in a bit. But Salah and Fernandes are going to be in my team, so there's 2 premium spots. And then I'll probably want Son and Kane. Yeah. So straight away, how can I fit him in?
Great.
And I think the other problem as well is that if I am going to bench boost, I think having it just takes a little bit. I think it stretches the funds a little bit too much. And I think if you look at it, so I'd have him in 18 anyway. So the fixtures that I would miss would be, I think, is it Everton and Chelsea, which I don't think are easy fixtures. And City's games are quite close together from what I remember.
And they're both away as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think he'll be highly owned. So I'm comfortable going with that then. I'd have him back for the free hit in 18 versus Is it Brighton?
It is Brighton, yeah.
And then I'd miss him for the Palace game, which, of course I would like him, but you can't have everybody. So I'll be comfortable going without De Bruyne for the short term. And then I think from game week 20 onwards, I'd look to bring him back ASAP.
I think City's fixture, so they've got Palace in 19, then they're away to West Brom in 20, and home to Sheffield United in 21. Then they've got Burnley as well. So City's running out of time is really, really nice. Any of the changes which we talked about earlier about 26 double, 29 blank, could have changed any of your plans?
Not really, because I think at this stage we just don't have enough information about the teams that are going to be involved. So what I quite like at the moment is we've got certainty on double game week 19, and it looks good to bench boost for the reasons I mentioned earlier. There's players that someone like Charlie Taylor, Kufal, Walker Peters. They don't eat up loads of budget, and you'd be happy for them to sit on your bench. And if they all get you 4 or 5 points over the 2 games, that's fine. We just don't know. And I think another good positive of bench boosting, we mentioned this off air, is I want to get it out of the way personally, because I think when you have it, you're going to have to use it at some point, and therefore, and you will obviously want to try and get the optimal use out of it. And I think then for a long period of time, you're worrying about 15 players, whereas I quite like just focusing on my starting 11. Or, it might be that you have to have 15 because you need to split it over 2 game weeks. So maybe to set yourself up from the blanks, I'm thinking maybe the wild card, for example, in 26 or 25, 26, I could have 4 players that are playing in game week, is it the 29, the blank? Yeah. So therefore, I've then got probably enough with making transfers. I might be able to get to 7 or 8. So that's my thinking at the moment. I think the other option is you could try and free hit in the blank in 29, but you just don't know. I quite like this one for a free hit, and I know a lot of people are saying they don't.
I'm surprised at that, because it doesn't excite me.
Well, the reason I quite like it is City, because the problem with City is that every week you've got a rough idea before each game, given who's been rotated and rested, who's going to start. So I quite like having a one-off stab at 3 City, and I'll probably go 3 City attack to maximise it. But also as well, I think someone like Callum Wilson he's got Sheffield United. I don't really like Newcastle's fixtures, but he's somebody who's capable of getting a couple of goals. Yeah. So I quite like it and I think there'll be 2. The reason I think it's quite good as well is from a timing point of view. I want to try and be in the top 100k by the end of game week 19, and I think a couple of things will happen. Over 2/3 of managers have used their wild card already. So what will probably happen in game week 18, there'll be either a lot of hits, which I can see happening, people taking 8, 12 pointers. That puts you at a strong advantage already. There will also be a lot of people that go in with maybe 6, 7, 8 players and think, I'll just play through, which I think could work. I mean, if you've got the key peoples like your De Bruynes and Sons and Kanes, of course that could get you through. But I just think it's an opportunity for me personally, to get back on track. I know what I'm playing with, and I think it allows me to maximise 18 and 19, and get the bench boost out of the way. So I'm comfortable with this strategy. I don't see myself changing, and I think I've still got a wild card to take through to the second double game week. So yeah, I think there is an argument to triple captain Salah, and I think I'd do it if I was in a different situation. So if I couldn't quite get the 15 players maybe, or I couldn't get a good enough bench that was happy to bench boost, I think I would do that. I think Salah's a very viable captain, but I think there are going to be loads of opportunities to use that triple captain. Bench boost is harder to get the opportunities for.
I agree with that, definitely.
Because, for example, the other thing that we could have is double game weeks where maybe just Villa and City, or just maybe 2 teams playing, which again, that's fine for a triple captain, whereas bench boost might be a little bit more challenging to make work. So, I'm set on a strategy. The hard thing is going to be picking that wildcard team, because there's a lot of players that I want or don't want to leave out, more the case. What about yourself? Because you're in a different situation, and I think, but no, but I don't think it's. I actually, before we go through it, I don't think it's a huge advantage. I think it's an advantage having a wild card now, but I don't think it's. I think given when it was all announced, I think it could have been a much bigger advantage, if that makes sense.
I think it could have been a bigger advantage. It's just a number of options. I've written down 6 or 7 options off the top of my head, right? And at the moment, I'm really not set, and I'm not sure. I suppose for me, it's striking a balance of between, I could have a good as double 18 or 19 as you by using a lot of my chips earlier, right? Or I could try and ride out this 18 or 19 and hope that the latter ones are better. It's finding the balance, right? So at the moment, my plan is to ride through 18, as you mentioned earlier, so I don't have the wild card. I can ride through 18 with maybe 6 or 7 players. I think what's good about Gameweek 18, there's only one standout captain and only one real standout player, in my opinion, in Kevin De Bruyne. So everyone will captain De Bruyne, right? So I don't have to be scared about that. Appreciate your points, maybe, on potential, Aguero.
So which players? So let's examine this as an option, because so talk me through, who are your players currently that you've got for game week 18?
So I've got De Bruyne and Diaz. I have got Martinez.
You've got probably the 2 best City options. Okay,
I think so. I've got Martinez, who's on the Spurs. I've also got Watkins, but I'll likely want to get rid of Watkins after this week because their fixtures do turn. I will have Kane and Son as well, so I'll have the both of them. So I'll be getting Kane in for Watkins as part of a move there, and at the moment, looking at it very quickly, I think that's it. So I think I've only got five players at the moment going into Game Week 18. Obviously, I have got a few transfers I can make. I can probably get up to 7 or 8 quite quickly. I'm quite interested in Neto, and
I like Neto.
So he's got. He's got Everton in that game week, but their fixtures after are quite nice as well, and Wolves' fixtures after that are all right as well, and he's quite cheap. So Neto was one who was on my radar. Do you know who I think would be a really good shunt on that week? And it's Aubameyang. It's not someone I can get to, right? Obviously because of the predicament I'm in. But for yourself, Aubameyang home to Palace. You know what? Even if he doesn't do anything, you're not going to lose out massively. But the potential upside, if Arsenal suddenly hit a bit of form and he gets a couple of goals, I think
if he's getting chances going into that game,
exactly, yeah,
I would potentially look at him. But it'd be quite hard to fit in, because if you look at some of the players you've mentioned that I would want, Kane, Son, De Bruyne. So maybe he could be your I suppose your other premium to complement them.
No.
The chances are you'll probably want Sterling or somebody else.
Yeah, but I'm not playing the free hit, right? So this is the thing. So this is all really I'm going to have.
Oh yeah, I was talking free hit. I wasn't talking about. Do not buy a Aubameyang. Let's just be clear. Do not. So what about as an alternative option then? Because you may have considered this. What about, have you looked at free hitting in 18 and then building towards 19?
Yes, I have.
And you could either, and you may go the triple captain route, because what that might enable you to do is to have obviously you're going to maximise the potential in 18 firstly, and it means in 19, you might be able to, let's assume you're going to triple captain Sally, you might be able to get close to, even if you get 8 or 9 double game week players out.
I could probably get 8 or 9 and Kane and Son, because they're away to Sheffield United as well, right? So that's a nice...
Yeah, and exactly.
Or City as well. I've only got the one game, but it's home to Palace. So, that's a nice game as well. So I don't even mind having kind of 7 doubles, double City and double Spurs there either. I think.
So what would you? Sorry, right. What would you do? So like game week, as you plan at the moment. So hold you have your 6, 7 starting in 18.
Yeah, I think so.
What would you do in 19 then?
So at the moment I'm building up a team, right? So I've got 2 West Ham players. I've got 2 Leeds players. So they've got they're all the really nice home games there. I've got Bruno. I'll have Salah. I've got Che Adams. So I brought him in this week as Swap Frings as part, as part of a downgrade. I've still got Reece James, who should be back hopefully at that point. If not, he's not. If I brought in Neto, as I mentioned earlier, I'd have Neto home to West Brom as a single game. Okay, not very exciting, but I would have probably 7 double game weekers. KDB, Diaz, Kane and Son, just as an example, that would be my team, which I'm happy with, and I would triple captain probably Salah, even though, well, they got their home to, I've lost their fixtures a minute, they're home to Man United, home to Burnley, which I mean they're home in both. I don't know, I think United will frustrate them, but Burnley do tend to go to pieces, don't they, against the better sides.
So you would then hold your free hit for further down the line?
But so for probably 29, where we have the big blank. So my thought after that then is to wildcard in 25 into the double for 26, where I would probably bench boost then, and then use the free hits in 29. So that's my current thought. Now I have also thought about
the thing to mention on that. So just I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah.
The teams that will play in 29 will be the teams that are knocked out of the FA Cup. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So without looking at the fixtures, it basically means what you could have is a load of dross playing in 29. That's feasible. I think, which therefore you could. I actually think this, looking at game week 18, I think the balance between 18 and 19 is really good, because in both, if you look at both of them, they've almost split the big hitters between the 2 game weeks. Because you've got the Man City and Spurs in 18, and then in 19 you've got Liverpool and United and Chelsea. So they've and I think Arsenal are obviously in 18 as well, which I think they've maybe split the top 6 down the middle. In fact, rather than Arsenal, it's probably Villa are the next biggest team looking at that. So I think, look, I just think 29, and I haven't looked at the FA Cup fixtures, but it's probably worth investigating. But I know Liverpool have got Villa.
Yeah, they have.
I think Liverpool will probably go for. I think Villa won't be too fussed about the FA
Liverpool
Cup.
will play their kids, right?
Which we beat 5-0 last year. So actually, maybe not then. They'll probably want revenge for the 7-2 though. So I reckon they'll go all out. But I don't know. I just think we have it could be like Newcastle, Sheffield United, Brighton's. It could be the ultimate dross in game week 29.
But also we haven't got many or any of their players, right? So if you don't save the free hit for 29, it means you may be going into 29 with 3 playing players, or something like that. I don't know.
But it could be like the record lowest score of all time, You're like Mopay, Welbeck, McBurney. I always think, and I think the best case scenario is 29 matches what we've got now. I don't see it being better, and therefore, and the problem with free hitting in a double game week is you don't maximise the triple captain and bench boost are better for doubles. So I don't know. I personally, and I think the free hit for 18, irrespective of your situation, unless you've maybe got 8 or 9 of those players already, then it possibly could be better to do. But what's quite good about the blanks and doubles is at 16, 17, 19, and even going out 20, there's a lot of teams that have got double game weeks, that have got good fixtures going in, as we talked about, your West Hams, your Leeds, your Leicesters, and they've got some all right fixtures going out as well. So the big problem and the big spanner in the work is game week 18, and that's where your free hit is perfect for. And what I've seen a lot of, and this is what I've tried to stay away from, is people trying to be really clever. And I'm not accusing you of this.
No,
I do
it.
But people are trying to be really clever and come up with these brilliant ideas and almost try and kid themselves. I think there are people that haven't got wild cards that are trying to kid themselves that we shouldn't use our free hit in 18. I think that's a possibility as well. I think for me, I just think how the fixtures are set up, it's perfect to do it, to maximise this sort of up to game week 19, 20 bubble. And then for the other thing, further down the line, we just don't know, do we? We don't know what the double game week is going to be like. So I think you're betting on certainty here, whereas it's a big gamble not knowing the fixtures, because I can see there being like 4 fixtures in game week 29 and them just being absolute full of dross, loads of 4.5 million options. That's my thoughts, but something for you to ponder. I mean, I'm sure loads of people might disagree with me in the chat, which is fine, but I think a lot of people are overcomplicating this.
No, that's fair enough, and I think the points you make of it, I would like to play the free hit in 18, right? I don't want to go into 18 knowing that I'm kind of massively, know that I'm going into 18, probably going to be 30 points behind the average, right? I don't want to do that. So, but I've got the hope then I can claw it back later on. But you're right, and by game week 24, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to know the double for 26. We're going to know the blank for 29. A lot of people will be in the same boat as well. So it's something to think about there. Something else I've toyed around with very, very briefly is playing an early second wild card, right? And you can play it, a kind of number of occasions. I'm not doing this before everyone goes nuts in the chat. I'm not doing this.
It's just something. Early, how early?
Well, this is it, right? You could dead end your team into 16, right? You could then wild card into 17 in readiness for bench boost 19 and free hit in 18. That is one thing you could do. You could dead end yourself into 18. You could wildcard in 19 for 19 and beyond. You couldn't use another chip there, obviously, but that is something else to think about. Another thing you could do is free hit 18, double 19, and then wild your card out of 19, if you know what I mean. So you could dead end your team into 19 and then wild card yourself out of 19 in 20, and get a real advantage probably actually over a lot of people who will be kind of stuck with all these double players. A lot of them will come out with not very good fixtures, and a lot will come out with great fixtures. So you've got the advantage there. So I have toyed around those as well. I personally like an early wild card. I don't, it obviously hasn't really worked out this time, but if I'd have known that there would have been doubles around, blanks and doubles 18 and 19 start of the season. I don't believe we did know, did we, at the start of the season?
I think we did.
What, at the start?
Yeah, I think
pre-season.
Pre-season, yeah. So that was so we knew about this split game week, and that's the only reason that I've held my wild card.
COVID was your reason. I remember us chatting about it. I'll give you that. I'll pull it back up.
We can go to VAR on it. But no, the reason that I held my wild card for so long was purely for these.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of apprehension whether we would get the fixtures in time, but I think when they announced the December fixtures, I was fairly confident that they weren't going to leave it. They weren't not going to leave it to the 26th of December to announce January's fixtures. So. Yeah, it's tough. I think the way you got to look at it, there's going to be two big problems coming up, which is 18 and 19, and then there's going to be whether you call it 26 to 29, they're going to be the obstacles, and I think you're going to need to use your chips, or you're always going to need to use a chip for each one, whether it's a free. So I actually think I think you'd be better off saving your wild card for the 24-25, because I think if you don't, it's going to be a long second half of the season. That's what I think personally.
Oh, that's fair enough.
What would you if you were going to just going back to sort of exploring your team currently? So what would your team look like? So if you're going to play through to 19, who have you got currently that plays in 19?
So I tell you what, I'll bring my team up really.
Let's have a look. I could be interested in seeing this, because I think.
So my team going now into 15, and in terms of what it'll look like for the doubles for 19. So I've got Martinez goals, who hasn't got a double at the moment. They're home to Everton in 19. I've got Diaz.
But that's a good fixture.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it is. I've got Diaz, Dallas, and Creswell, and James at the back. So they're 4 of 5 at the back, who have all got double. Sorry, Diaz hasn't, but he's got a really nice fixture home to Palace. So I'm kind of happy to hold him there. Then got
who's your fifth defender?
Mitchell at the moment.
Okay,
so I think.
Yeah.
I don't.
Have you got a second playing keeper?
No, I got Steer. So no. So that's
okay, fine.
I've then got a midfield of Salah, De Bruyne, Son, Bruno, and Soucek. So they've all got doubles, apart from De Bruyne again, who's home to Palace. So that's nice. I've then got Bamford and Adams, and I've got Watkins. Though I am gonna do a bit of a switcheroo, between. I'm probably gonna do De Bruyne to Kane next week. I kind of move around there. But I will then bring De Bruyne back in then for 18 for one of the other premiums at some point.
Right. Let me run something past you. Have you got any money in the bank?
Not a lot. Not 0 point something. Maybe like 500,000 or something. Maybe.
No. Okay. So what you could look to do. Okay. So you could, if I was looking at that, the players that I would keep. So I would potentially go through to 19. It couldn't be out. It might not be even out the question that you could bench boost. So you've got Martinez. You'd be happy to play. You've got Diaz. I think play him.
Yeah, definitely.
Dallas got a double. Creswell got a double. James, you maybe hold. He's got a double. Yeah. So straight away, you're looking quite strong already. So your two issues you'd need to sort out are Steer and Mitchell. You then got Salah, Soucek, Son, and who else have you got? And Bruno, is that right?
Yeah.
So you've got 4 out of your 5 are in good shape, and you're going to be getting rid of KDB. So what you could do, so you need to sort out KDB and then potentially Watkins as an example, because you've got Adams and Bamford. So you've got 1, 2, 3. You've got 4 issues in that team. You could get a really good bench boost team.
I got 4 issues, but I don't like using my transfer between now and then just to get in double game week players, if that makes sense. I want to keep my team moving. I want to keep it, because also I'm taking De Bruyne out for Kane now, right? Just as an example, that's a transfer.
So hear me out then. What about trying something like this? Because this would, in my opinion, take your team forward. So next week you do KDB and Watkins to Kane and someone like Rafinha.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gives you then, probably a front 8, which will be as good as most wild cards.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. So then your only issues to really sort out are Mitchell and Steer. So you've got 2 transfers. You might, if you've then free hit in 18, you've got 2 transfers to sort them out. You might bring in, I don't know what money you would have available, but there'll be some good options that you could bring in. And I think if I was in your shoes, having spoken to you now, you can get your game week 18 free hit. So that would sort them out. You could maybe bring in someone like KWP and Johnston in goal, with Big Sam coming in. And straight away, you've got a really good bench for his team, and you probably haven't even had to take a hit, or you might have taken, one hit.
I would have taken a hit or two, because
I need
to take a hit to do the De Bruyne to Kane switch. Is 1 hit immediately, right? Because I've only got one free transfer. So you mentioned earlier De Bruyne.
Okay. But then you got 2. Okay, fine. But then you got 2 transfers, which you could do 1 in 17, which sort your goalkeeper out, or do that for probably 19. that's what I would probably do, because you're then maximising your transfers are optimising, in my opinion. So bringing in, say, Rafinha and Kane, and making your team stronger. So you're moving forward, which is what you want to do. You got your free hitting 18, optimising again, and then you're going in with what you could a very comparable bench boost to wildcarders. You'll be one or two players different to me with that team. And I think that, for me, if I was looking at the optimum and you're only doing a -4 to get there, I would go with that route.
And, just so this is obviously judging that everyone keeps their place, isn't injured, etc., etc. If one of the two players then got injured, I'm very cynical about this. Planning transfers in advance. Would you then use -4 or -8 to fulfill the bench?
Yeah, definitely.
You would.
Of course I would. Definitely, because of course I would. I think you can see nearer the time, but I think I would do, because that could happen with wildcarders anyway, with the injuries, because they're probably the players that we're talking about are fairly popular players, so it's going to impact if there were injuries. So like the Chilwell injuries and James's injuries, there's going to probably over half the game own one of those two players, so that's going to impact everybody anyway. So because you're going quite mainstream players,
that's a good point actually.
It's all relative, isn't it? So I just think then you get your bench boost out of the way. I don't know. I actually think your team looks quite strong as well. I'm looking at it, and even the single game week, is you've got Diaz, Martinez, and Son. They've all got really good fixtures, and they could all outscore some of the doubles. Something for you to lose sleep over, but that's what I would do.
You're getting a lot of love in the chat. You have been all evening actually. So when you were talking about your own team and your own plans, you were getting a lot of love, and you're also getting a lot of love now with trying to help me sort out my plan. So
there you go. Very altruistic tonight. Giving out my help to you. But I think I would. What I've seen a lot of, and I haven't massively been on Twitter this whole week, but ever since everything's been announced, I think it's, for me, and this isn't because I have a wild card. I think the people that don't have a wild card, I think some people are trying to think, well, there's loads and loads of options. I'm going to really overthink it and try and think of something that nobody's thought of. Or people feel, well, I'm at a disadvantage to wildcarders, so I have to come up with a different strategy. The reality is, what we've just discussed, you might be 8 points behind, but it's probably still going to be the optimum strategy for you. And you've just got to forget that people who have wildcarded have had a benefit or a boost earlier or at some point in the season. Fair, yeah. And I've worked it out. There were a couple of times where I nearly pulled the trigger. And I think in both instances, I'd have been between 15 to 20 points up.
Yeah.
I think just from hits I've taken and how things worked out. So I don't know. That's what I would do. And I think you'd have quite a nice boost in the rankings, because your team isn't actually that bad at the moment to get to that position.
You know, one thing I never, or I very rarely do, and it's come to me in this last couple of weeks actually, is I very rarely listen to advice. And I think this is one of my biggest problems, is that I think that kind of I know best a lot of the time, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says. I'll just do what I think is best. But you've got six top 10k finishes. I've only got one, right? You've been playing the game longer than I have as well. So I think I'm going to bend to your expertise here, and I think I'm going to follow your advice.
I think because you've done well in a lot of different formats, and you've got a very good FPL record as well. And what you said, sticking to your guns and not following advice, it does work. There would have been times that would have really, really benefited you. But I think it's really tough in this game knowing when to be stubborn and when to think, do you know what? Because I do feel at the moment there is a little bit of, I've used my wildcard, there's got to be something better. Whereas actually just And that's the thing that I think, and bear in mind, I think the other thing just to go back to, the majority of managers, I haven't checked the figures, but about 3 or 4 weeks ago, 2/3 of managers have used their wild card. So there's going to be, maybe there's, say, 20% maximum, potentially even less of, some of those might be people that aren't engaged. So you're not really at that big a disadvantage. And I think that people, because of Twitter, people think there's loads of managers that have still got a wild card. There isn't. So I would probably do that. And you'll only be maybe 4 or 8 points down, but the players that you've got and the differentials you've got could actually swing it in your favour.
Yeah, I think I might do that because I've always, I've been a bit nervous, obviously, around this period of actually of not having the wild card, but I will also then be on a level playing field with nearly everyone else then, right? So because everyone will have then used their free hit, everyone will have used their first wild card, everyone will use their bench boost. So I've got the same as everyone else there. So a few comments in the chat around, Steve says it pays to listen to advice but believe in your own instincts. I completely agree, Steve. Generally I do, right? But I play a lot of different games. So for those who don't know, I play kind of 6 or 7 different formats of fantasy football, which is tough this time of year. But FPL is I've done the well in FPL in the past, but the last season or two, not as well. And also I really struggle to optimize the chips. They always end up costing me. I remember I free hitted in Gameweek 31 2 years ago, and my non-free hit team would have scored 82, and I scored exactly half. I scored 41 with my free hit. If I had just left my team, I would have scored 82. And it's things like that that kind of burn you a little bit, don't it? When you look back and you just think, oh my goodness. But if it's there in front of you, which kind of judging by your comments, it is it kind of is there for me. Yeah, Japai 778. Good idea. Takes a lot of guts to say what you just said. Well, no, it's just I'm. That's just the way it is. I think it's I do like to go my own way. Sometimes it works, but in Adam here, so if anyone doesn't know Adam and his record, he's very humble, so he'd never say it himself. But Adam is probably in the top, 5 or 6 FPL managers, in the world, so he really, really knows his stuff. So I'm really gonna listen there. Joel Easley, this is my first year playing and I'm 183k. To be honest, I feel like many hold players too long based on past years. E.g., I dumped LFC defenders early and have yet to bring in KDB till he finds his form. You know what, Joel? I think that's a really good point, and I do that as well. Is we all think that Man City are going to come good. They're going to come good. They're going to come good. But while we're waiting for to kind of actually do that, then they're not on other people who are just playing a very simple game of scoring points. My son last year, right? So my son is 8 years old, and last year he played FPL for the first time with complete lack of bias on anything. So he just picked who he thought would score the most points every week. And
good strategy, that, isn't it?
Oh. But he was
try that one.
But he was picking, and this was like pre-Christmas. He was picking Mane and Vardy every week as captain. I don't know if you remember. Their stats wasn't amazing and all this kind of stuff, but they were smashing it every week. And by Christmas, he had a rank of like 6k, and I'm like 800k, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's unbelievable. Kieran Sutton, time to set up my own FPL podcast with Adam to make sure I get solid weekly FPL advice. Absolutely key. I agree there. And Phil Wright asks, is 12k any good?
Oh, I saw that. Nice humble brag there.
Very, 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 yes, it's very, very good.
It's excellent. If you're at that rank this stage, that sort of level, you could easily get a top 100 finish, I think.
Yeah, agree. Okay, so thank you, Adam, for completely turning me on his head. And I think like what you said at the start as well was a really good point as well around you haven't been on Twitter all day. You haven't been thinking and mulling. It's there in front of you. You know what you're going to do, and you're just going to do it. And I do think you're absolutely right. If it's there in front of you to do, don't I try and overthink and over twist everything to kind of get to squeeze out every kind of like drop of optimization, whereas you end up getting yourself in hell of a tangle, right? Don't you? You know, when you end up all over the shop. So yeah, nice one there, Adam. Okay, we've now got your game week 15 team on screen.
Yeah.
Can you read through it? Tell us your plans 15, but also obviously, so your wildcard in 16 anyway. So it's just
well, I can talk you through both, because I know we talked about the wild card, so I can tell you about some of the players I'm looking to include in that. But
please do.
15, we'll quickly get 15 out of the way, because this is I'm actually looking forward to getting this out of the way myself. Seeing all these players I want just zooming up in price. So 15, my team at the moment, I've got McCarthy in goal. He's away at Fulham. Happy with that. I've then got a fantastic defence of Chilwell and Reece James, who aren't going to be playing at all, so that's a bit of an issue. It would have been a great defence away at Arsenal. I'd have fancied, I'd have been excited about that, but not to be. I've got Target, who he's got Crystal Palace, so he'll play. I've got Ayling, who's got Burnley, who I'm not the biggest fan of at the moment for his -1 off the bench. And I've got, who else? And I've got Ferguson, so he's not going to offer anything. So, and then
thanks,
quickly,
mate. You wrote Nathan Ferguson. Sorry,
Nathan Ferguson. Yeah, exactly. So, and then my attacking players, I've got. So my front seven are Son, Salah, De Bruyne, Bruno, Watkins, Bamford, and Calvert-Lewin.
Nice.
So I'm happy with my front seven. My defence is a bit of a shambles. I've even thought about taking a hit, but I think what I'll probably do, and this is I would take out either James or Chilwell, and I'm probably thinking of bringing Kufal in, because I want him in my wild card, so I might as well get him and just beat the price rise. Diaz is another option, but the City play 2 games really close together, and if he's going to get a rest, I think it's that Newcastle game, because then they play away at Everton and away at Chelsea. So surely you'd rest him for Newcastle if he is going to rest. So I just think I might go for Kufal is the one I'm looking at, I think, realistically. If I could get Robertson, I would, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. But that would involve a hit. And I just think, we talked before, I was considering a hit because I really don't want to play Ayling. But it is quite hard to get back 4 points for a defender for one game as well. I'm relying on a clean sheet. And, stranger things have happened. I think Burnley will score. I'm expecting 2 points at best, but, stranger things have happened. The one thing I will say with Ayling is almost every single game he has a shot and a key pass. So at some point, even when he's playing centre-back, at some point, I might fluke a goal or something.
It reminds me of Lamptey a little bit. They're just always there or thereabouts. I've watched Leeds a lot this season, and the amount of times he's nearly got an assist or a goal, he just haven't quite managed to do it. But yeah, he is there or thereabouts. No, that's a nice team. Are you going to hold on to Bissouma on your wild card?
Bissouma's going to be long gone. I can't wait to get rid of.
Every week you've been saying, I'm going to have Bissouma first bench. I might even have to start Bissouma, but
I think Bissouma will be good. So that's my plan there. Should we go for your team and then we can come back to my wild card? Do you want to do that? Sure. So we can box off 15.
Yeah. So mentioned it earlier, but I've got Martinez in goals and Steer as backup. I then got Diaz. So I've taken a hit this week already. So I mentioned earlier, I didn't bring in Salah last week because of the news he wouldn't start. So I saved transfer last week. I've had to make it this week because the rises have just been, the rises and falls have just been ridiculous. So I've moved out Chilwell. For those asking in the chat, it looks like Lampard said earlier, Chilwell and Reece James are going to be out for a couple of weeks, which is obviously, in this period, 3 game weeks or so, right? So I'm getting rid of Chilwell. I had Jota still from the previous week.
Oh dear.
And I downgraded it. I had Ings, so I downgraded Ings. So I downgraded Ings and Chilwell to Adams with game week 19 in mind. And he's just on form, right? He's a really good player, pretty good value. And Dallas, and I upgraded Jota to Salah. Some upgrade there. So I've got a back 3 of Diaz, Dallas and Creswell, who've all got really nice home games this week. Even Martin's in goal, so I've got, everyone's got really nice games this week at the back. I then got Salah as captain, De Bruyne as vice, Son and Bruno in midfield, so I'm really, really happy with. And then up front, Bamford, Watkins and Che Adams. And on my bench, I've got Soucek, first sub, who's burnt me twice already with 9 pointers over the last month or so. Reece James, I'm just kind of leaving, in the hope that he'll be back in a couple of weeks. And I have got Mitchell, as we mentioned earlier. Might get rid of Mitchell and Steer in the next couple of weeks to maybe use the bench boost in game week 19, but we will see there. So that's my team, which I've got to be honest, it looked horrid. Well, like pre-transfers, I had yellow flags everywhere and it would look absolutely horrible. I'm looking at it now and it's amazing what one kind of hit can do. I'm really happy with my team now. For the next couple of weeks. And next week, what I'm likely to do, you kind of mentioned it earlier, right? So it will mean a hit, but I'm likely going to take De Bruyne and Watkins out. So Villa's fixtures change. De Bruyne has changed for a couple of weeks, and I'll likely bring in Kane and then potentially Rafinha, as we spoke about as well. And then obviously, I need to work out then potentially how to get De Bruyne back for 19. Or maybe not, we can see there, it depends how they're doing at the time. But yeah, that's my plan for the next week or two, which I'm fairly happy with. The whole Jota Salah thing completely, buggered up my plans. Jota getting injured just cost me massively, and I've been
you got to move on though. It's happened. Yeah, there's not much. You're in good shape this week. I like the moves you've made. I think you've set yourself up nicely for long term. So, I think your team's looking very, very good. A bit envious, but anyway.
I'm sure you'll claw it back, mate, over the coming game weeks.
We'll see. I think so. Look, we talked about wildcard. I've done this team, and literally, I did it at 7:42 or something before we set up. So I've been thinking about it, and I've actually shortlisted a lot of players, but I hadn't really put together many drafts. But I can talk through where my head's at the moment in terms of it. So goalkeepers is interesting for wildcard. I think there's 3 that I like. McCarthy I've got, so I'm probably going to keep him, I think. Yeah. I think Southampton have got good fixtures. He's done okay. He's actually played quite well. So I think McCarthy will stay. And then it's whether I go for Sam Johnston, who you're relying on West Brom becoming more solid, but he's good for save points. And I think that's probably where I'll go. The alternative is to go for Martinez. And the reason I would do that is, yes, okay, I might lose out on one game, but what I do gain then is the Villa are going to have double game weeks further down the line. And actually, I think after about game week 2021, the fixtures pick up. So it gives me that second option. I think I'm probably, because of budget, going to go for Sam Johnston at the moment, though. I've looked at defence. I've not gone with a Chelsea defender. So, and the reason for that is their fixtures before the double game week. They've got Villa and City, and I think both are capable of scoring. So, and actually, I think there's teams with better fixtures, and I think without Reece James and Chilwell, I think that might cause some issues defensively. That's my view. So I'm going without Chelsea. I think I'll definitely have a Liverpool fullback. So I've got Robertson at the moment. I think I'll probably go with just the one, and I'll tell you why in a second. More from spreading the budget and having a good balance. So looking at Robertson, and then I've got 4.4 to 5 million defenders. So I've got Walker Peters. That could change to another player in that bracket. Dallas, Kufal and Charlie Taylor. So it's looking at the fixtures going up to it. So Charlie Taylor has got Sheffield United and Fulham at home in 16 and 17. So I'm happy that, and even though he plays Liverpool in the double game week, I'm quite happy with him. I think Dallas has got really good fixtures as well, and I've got goal threat. And I think Walker Peters has got okay fixtures in the double, and I think Southampton have. So that I'm probably going to go for that sort of structure, because then I haven't got too much invested in defence, but I've got quite a strong defence and with rotations. So I think the obvious gaps there are probably Chelsea and City, but I can bring City in a little bit later. Midfield, and this is why I think you should go with the strategy. If you listen to my front eight, it's not going to be too dissimilar to yours. So I've got Rafinha. I like Rafinha at the moment. I think watching him the weekend, I thought he was excellent.
He's so dangerous.
He's exciting to watch, and that's what I've really enjoyed owning Bamford, because I love watching Leeds. Compare that with watching Newcastle with Callum Wilson. Yeah, they might get similar points, but it's a hard watching Newcastle. With watching Leeds, it's exciting. I think now having two attackers could be really beneficial. So I like Rafinha because I think what he has over Harrison and Harrison in particular, and Cleek or whatever his name is, I think is that I think he's got that absolute pedigree to be a top player. I think when he joined Leeds, there was a lot of talk about him, and I think he's just got that quality, and he can see some set pieces, takes a lot of corners from what I could see as well. He was taking some, but he's involved in everything, and he's exciting to own. So I think I'll go with Rafinha. I've then got Salah, Fernandes, Son, and Souček. So that effectively we could have the same midfield, but I think that's a really strong and balanced midfield as well.
Definitely.
I haven't got any more funds than I would normally have in there. And then up front, I've got Kane, Bamford, and Wood. Now, the Bamford staying, he's I think Wood is a toss up between him and Adams, but again, just looking at Burnley's fixtures in the lead up. And if Burnley score, it's going to be pretty much Chris Wood. So I think that's where I'm leaning at the moment, just because of those two before the double game week. And then I also, with Harry Kane, I think 16 and 17 are pretty key for him. But what I would do, my plan for 19 would then be to get rid of Kane in 19 for either Vardy, or I could go down as far as Che Adams and then upgrade elsewhere to spread the funds. So maybe take a hit, or even potentially two. Wouldn't bother me if I was making the team a lot stronger. I think Vardy's the obvious option. But even if I did Vardy, I could then potentially upgrade Charlie Taylor. I don't think I'll quite have the funds for a Chelsea defender, but there could be somebody else that becomes of interest. So
you would expect. You expect Reece James to drop, right? So he's only 5.1 at the moment. You expect he's going to drop over the next week or two. So he could be.
I think he's 5.3 because I bought him. So I think he's probably your selling price is 5.1. Right, yeah. But yeah, I'd agree. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it, then Kane and Taylor to Vardy and Reece James would be. So I think that midfield, if I just look at it, it looks really, really solid. I'm going to have to be careful with price rises because I've only got 0.2 in the bank to get to that team. So the player that I may sacrifice if I have to reluctantly will be Souček. So, I'd like to have him, but worst case, I'll have Anguissa at 4.5 million. And the extra funds, because it's not just this game week, it's then coming out of it. I want to then go to a point where I can minimise what I've got on the bench. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking at the moment. But I mean, I didn't put much time into that team at all. I think I'd look at the defence a little bit more in the rotations and who's playing in what. But I think this sort of structure, I think having that premium striker is a good slot to have personally, because I've got 3 cheapos at the moment and I don't like it. I think it just doesn't give you much flexibility.
Well, to kind of knock that up in 5 minutes just shows, that if you spent a good couple of hours, you would get yourself to a really, really nice team. So yeah, I think that's looking really, really strong and sets you up really nicely for 16, 17, 19 and probably onwards, because you're likely going to have a couple of transfers in hand potentially in 19. They're going to get out of any kind of 19 headaches then. Well, you went to 20 as well, and potentially.
Yeah, possibly. But the thing to probably highlight here is if you do free hit in 18, you can't carry any transfers over into 19.
That's just a good shout.
That is a bit of an issue, because I probably won't want to make a transfer, or there won't be any. I mean, I suppose I could have maybe correct a mistake in game week 17 if I think I've got it wrong. So if I think Kane, but then Kane's got Leeds in 18, so I probably wouldn't want to take him out then. So it's it's tough. I think that causes a little bit of an issue, but that's why I may take a hit or two in 19, but I'll only do it for players that I think have got huge upside in that game week.
We've had a bit of chat around how to pronounce the Leeds midfielder. So Stoichkov number 8 says it's Kli with just a H, so that's how you pronounce it. And I love Guy Parfit's. He says you've got to say click, but in a Scouse accent. Adam, do you want to have a go of that?
No, I'm like, was it click?
Click in a Scouse accent.
That's quite hard.
So it'd be something like click.
Click.
I love how we just go high. That's what we do.
Just go high. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's we'll just go with that Leeds player that sounds like click.
Everton and Man United is still 0-0. FPL Jordy did put in the chat earlier actually that Richarlison
gone off injured,
a
hasn't
nasty
he?
Injury or something. So that's something to just think about, for Calvert-Lewin's output maybe, because obviously last time Richarlison was out banned, it really affected him, didn't it? So just something to think about there. We had a couple of questions about Curtis Jones. I think we mentioned him last week. 4.4 as a fifth midfielder enabler. Obviously no good for a bench boost. Potentially, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it could be though, because they play twice, don't they? So if your expectation of that slot is 4 points, I think the only problem with him is he could block a third Liverpool player. So he is a third Liverpool player, but you know what I mean. Like you could block getting Trent and Robbo and Salah, or Mane or Jota when he's back. So that is why I probably wouldn't do it. And I think I'd be happy enough, even if I'm down to Anguissa. If I'm Anguissa deep, I might go with that. And then I've got more funds, because I think 4 points. If I get 4 points off a bench boost, 4.5 million midfielder, I'll be happy with that.
Adam, you've given me an absolute schooling tonight in about 5 or 6 points. I just realised actually it was mentioned earlier in the chat that I said about the EFL final being in Gameweek 26. Of course, it's been moved, haven't it, as well, to 33. I must have been looking at it old. I forgot to change that on the text. But yeah, thank you for the schooling. But it's actually helped me sort out all my plans. So
I think you're right though, because I've been away from FPL this week, and it's made sometimes. I think when we did some of the pre-season stuff and started speaking, but sometimes when you take a step back, it's a lot easier to see the opportunities, because it's very easy. Like I think if you look at Twitter this week in particular, everybody was talking about the great scores they got on Saturday, and rightly so. I've got no issue with that, definitely. And Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then a lot of it is then trying to come up with these really clever strategies. And this may not be, and just to be clear, what I'm saying, and I'm only saying it because I think it's right, we do not know at this stage. There could be a wonderful, really intelligent, well thought out strategy, or a not well thought out strategy that does prevail. But I don't know, sometimes I think it's just best to not overthink it. And in previous seasons, so my bench boost last year was my best ever, probably my best ever FPL.
Oh, I remember it shoved you up like a few.
I was about 100 and my bench boost was it had a big impact on my rank, but I had about 150 game week rank, which is incredible. But the reason that I did is I actually deliberately stayed off Twitter, and I was looking at a lot of the teams in some of our group chats, etc., and people going really heavy on what I would call, because they had 2 games, a lot of dross. There was so much, that I think Samatta is an example of that. But there were a lot of people doing that, and I think what you've got, you're better off staying away from those sort of players. I'm investing in Rafinha because I like him as a player. I think he's got potential, not because he's got a double game week. I would buy him. He's the sort of player I would buy Yeah, and that is a really important thing, because if you buy people because they have a double game week, I think that's, you're creating yourself 4-point hits down the line, I think.
Like, everyone who's on this stream this evening has been very fortunate to have an absolute masterclass from Adam Hopcroft. Wonderful stuff, Adam. Okay, let's just have a look at game week 15 captaincies. The 4 options we've got on screen. We've got Salah, De Bruyne, Kane and Son. Put up a quick poll earlier on Fantasy Football Hub. Salah home to West Brom came top with 82.6% of the vote. De Bruyne 12.8 home to Newcastle. Obviously a really nice fixture. Probably in any other week, it's just the fact that Salah's got that, home game against West Brom, the fact he was rested, etc. We then got Kane and Son at 2% each. There are probably some other options as well. I think Calvert-Lewin away to Sheffield United, even though if Richarlison is out, that could be an issue. Sterling, he's okay. He's not quite doing it at the moment, but the amount of one-on-ones he has on the left-hand side, he doesn't manage to convert. It's just incredible. Mane home to West Brom. If you're looking for a real differential, Mane could be one. And in that Leicester Man United game, Vardy just keeps scoring points against absolutely everyone. And Bruno is just on fire as well. So I think there's a fair few players with good fixtures, but can you look past Salah, Adam? Is there a case for anyone else?
No, I think for me, it's between 2 players this week, and I think there's which is Salah and De Bruyne. I can't see past either of them. I think Mane's a possible shout as well, but I think more people own Salah. I think if you've got Salah, you captain him, because the reason I would do it anyways, I actually think both of them could score fairly similarly, but Salah's ownership is a lot higher than De Bruyne's. So if De Bruyne scores and does well, you'll get a green arrow. If Salah, but it'll put, because not many people actually own him still.
He's still
fair. He's relatively low for the caliber of player that he is.
I agree.
And I think the problem is, if you do not captain Salah and he gets a brace, or it really goes off, then it's just too big a risk. I just think it's a safe option, but I also think with what Big Sam would have had time to work with them. But as I said on the pod last time out before the Liverpool Spurs game, Liverpool always score at least 2 goals. There's only 2 occasions since the start of last season that they haven't scored 2 goals, and they've scored in absolutely every game. So I don't see West Brom keeping a clean sheet. I think they'll score at least 2. Villa found them very easy, even when it was 11v11. Traore looked like a world beater, and it was a great performance from him. But you put Salah in there, he's going to have a field. That I think he'll get a double-digit haul. So I think Salah for me, and probably the factor that we haven't added in, his consistency at the moment is incredible. I think since he's come back from COVID, I think he's scored in every single match. They actually got a goal in every single match, including Champions League, which is absolutely brilliant. And even when he's not looking at it, like he didn't against Fulham, he looked really out of sort. He just gets points.
Got that penalty just as he was being brought off. Wasn't it incredible?
He's just one of those players. He's just a magnet for FPL points. So forget anything I said pre-season. That was my twin brother. Ignore that person. I'm not. I just think at the moment, watching him, when he came on v Palace, just so hungry. I can't make an argument not to captain him if you own him. I just think you may as well just give yourself a red arrow.
Agree. And the prediction tool agrees. So this is the highest actually that I've seen the prediction tool give. So the Fantasy Football Hub points prediction tool for game week 15 only says he's going to get 9.1 points, and it's normally quite on the reserved side. So he's first. Second is De Bruyne with 7. Third is Mane. Fourth is Sterling. Fifth is Robertson. So according to the points prediction tool, Adam, Robertson is going to get around 6.1 points. It may just be worth that hit. But no, I think...
do you know what? I would do it. I genuinely would do it if I could get Kufal as well, or somebody of that price, but I can only get like 4.2 or 4.3. Yeah. So just for that reason, if I was bringing in 2 players that I'd back, I'd probably do it. But no, I don't think you can justify it, unfortunately.
Fair enough. So competition time for our YouTube watchers. So every week, all our YouTube watchers have a chance to win a Fantasy Football Hub mug, which we have here. Wonderful addition to anyone's kitchen. We are selling these 2 along with other Fantasy Football Hub merchandise in association with that FPL merch. There is a link in the description below. We're currently running a 20% off discount using coupon code FFHub20, while Hub members can get 25% off. So last week we asked who would be the highest scoring Game Week 13 player, and we had hundreds of correct entries, all having Scott McTominay, who obviously got I tell you what, his 2 goals and an assist, I'm not sure he meant the assist, but his 2 goals were absolutely superb. So sadly there's no winner this week. We did also put out a tweet earlier on Twitter asking for a retweet on the Hub, and we did pick out a random winner before we started that, and that random winner was Owen Johnson, who I believe actually was in the chat earlier. So if you are on there, Owen, drop me a DM and we will sort you out with a Fantasy Football Hub mug. So the competition this week, for a chance to win one of these beautiful mugs, please please subscribe if you haven't already, and then comment on who you think will be the top FPL point scorer in Game Week 15. It is limited to 1 entry each, and if there is a tie, we will do a random draw for the winner. Adam, who is your random pick to be top point scorer in Game Week 15?
Do you know what? I will go with Sadio Mane, just because I think Salah is too obvious. But I think Mane is a good option. I think, or you could look at any City player who starts, but that's another lottery in itself. I mean, Aguero, could he be back?
Aguero, that's a really good show, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to have Aguero, I'll leave that one to you. But Aguero could be a good shout.
I would go for Foden, but he started last night and he played the night. He got a goal and an assist as well. He had a really good goal, a really good assist as well, actually. I'm trying to think who's going to be. I'll go for Sterling. I know it's not tremendously exciting, but I'm going to go for Sterling to be top scorer this week. I think he's got a hat-trick in him. He's just one of those players, isn't he? He's hat-trick material, Sterling. He'll do nothing for a while and then banging a hattie. So so if you do want to be eligible to win one of these mugs, make sure you like the stream, subscribe, and leave your pick in the comments. Finally, we're just going to have a quick look at our FFH Green Arrow Mini League. In 10th place, we've got João Pusetto, and 9th place, Michael Helen, 8th place, Lou Banks, 7th, MC Laugh, up to 6th, Noor Boujalea. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering all these names, by the way. Down to 5th, Martin Meltzer. So Martin was top for a while. He's gone down a little bit now to 5th. 4th, James Dayton. 3rd, El Chamali. Down to 2nd, Will Hollin. And number 1. So I think Ollie Rantala has been in the top 10 for most of the season. Ollie scored 100 points this game week, which put him up, I assume it's a he, to 91st position overall in FPL.
Well done, that's brilliant.
So, Ollie, that is absolutely incredible stuff, and many congratulations to everyone in the top 10. You are all having absolutely fantastic seasons. Very well done there. Make sure you join our FPL Podcast Mini League if you haven't already. There will be a prize for first place, including a guest appearance on our first pre-season podcast of next season. The Mini League code is LV24ZG. Make sure you join that now. I'm just going to put it in the chat as we speak so people can copy and paste it. Just slip that in the chat. LV24ZG. Join our league. YouTube watchers can join. Use the auto join link in the description below. So Adam, that is it from us. I felt like I've had a bit of a lesson this evening. Thank you so much for all your amazing insights and experience. Like I say, I remember you having that game week. Didn't you score like 137 points or something ridiculous like that on bench?
It's 146. It was do you know what? I had 2 players. The reason I remember it quite well, I had 2 players blank out of 13,
Wow.
and it was Jack Grealish,
Oh.
and I think had El Ghazi, I think as a little punt and a bit of fun, but yeah, it was both the Villa boys let me down. They were the only ones to let me down. But yeah, that was a very, very memorable game week. I think there were a couple of other guys in the community that did quite well. I think Cy FPL Connect and James at Planet FPL did quite well at that week. But yeah, it was a very, very memorable one.
I remember you jumped up you jumped up from like 200k to like 20k or something stupid like that, was it?
Yeah, it was about three. Yeah, I think it was about 300 and to about incredible. It was about that. So
incredible.
But I think that's what a lot of people experience this weekend. There are certain game weeks where you can get huge jumps, and it's just about taking those opportunities. So, it's fine margins. I'm sure, if I wouldn't have had Reece James, who knows what would have happened. But
good stuff. And hope, Adam, you have a Merry Christmas, or as merry as you can. I think slowly we're all. I don't think you're quite in tier 4 yet, are you? But I get
no tier 2. Well, so I'm all right at the moment.
Well, I get the feeling, mate, that in a couple of weeks, we may be in some kind of horrible tier. But hope you and your family, obviously, really good.
Yeah, same to you. And I just want to thank as well everybody that's listened, interacted. It's been, I think, since doing them live, we've had a lot of fun doing them. I think we're going to continue to do them live for the new year. But I think, I want to wish all our listeners a Merry Christmas as well. And hopefully you'll have a good Boxing Day and get green arrows. So that's what we're hoping for.
I put you on the spot, Adam, now. Are we coming on next Wednesday?
Yeah, I think next Wednesday's fine. Is it 30th?
Everyone heard that? So everyone heard that?
Yeah, I can do next Wednesday. I think,
jump on next Wednesday. So we'll be between game week. What's that? 16. We'll be approaching 17, won't we?
Yeah. That's fine. So I can definitely do that.
Lovely job. Okay. Yes, and just to echo Adam, thank you so much for everybody who takes the time to watch us live. We we have a lot of fun, really good interaction in the chat, and thank you all so much for your continued support. Adam, where can we find you?
On Twitter, Hopcroft13,
and I'm at Fergie222. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are at FFH_HQ. And our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH_Green Arrow. So make sure you give us a follow. Excuse me. Our website, fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you'll find everything you need for fantasy football, all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, points prediction tools, and much, much more. The team reveals this week, if you haven't read them already on the Hub, we've got Matthew Jones, FPL Heidenberg, and Rich Clark. They are absolutely superb. They put out all their strategies and thoughts, how they're approaching the chips. I think a couple of them have got their drafts for their wildcards game week 16 as well. They're on Adam's level, right? They're all real elite FPL managers. So have a read of those on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. To join the tens of thousands of other fantasy managers and sign up to the Hub, use all our amazing resources, just click the top link in the description below. You will not regret it. Why not get it to yourself as a birthday present, right? As a Christmas present. Not birthday. No one's getting anything, right? Why don't you get an annual pass to Fantasy Football Hub? Why not? We will be back live at 8 p.m. next week. Adam has just confirmed that live. We'll be back live 8 p.m. next week, full of mince pies and beer, and hopefully a couple of green arrows. From all of us here at Fantasy Football Hub, we wish you a safe and peaceful Christmas. Good night all.